Well, good evening, um, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening on a Saturday evening, Saturday the 18th of February 2022. I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight on Talk and Sip. For those who are on Instagram, thank you for joining. For Instagram, of course, just to let you know, that's not going to stay on too long. You got to get over onto the Facebook. Well, actually, the YouTube version, which is Sylybourne TV, which is, I believe, is the best way. That's where one can see the interaction as well, and that would be much better. And as well, for those on Facebook as well, want to thank you for joining, and to remember to like and subscribe on this evening of Saturday night. And for this Saturday night, we always say, "What are you drinking?" And actually, I'm not going to be drinking any alcohol or anything sweet or whatever like that. I'm just going to have water. Yeah. And talking sip is going to be just water, sparkling water. And you can tell me what you are drinking tonight. Yeah. There's that sizzling sound. Crystal punch. That's what we call it. Crystal punch, which is water. And tonight is supposed to be a very interesting night. The topic, of course, as you can see, is who speak up for Jamaicans in the diaspora. As a matter of fact, it may sound like it is a one track, like say, who speak up for Jamaicans in the diaspora, who speak up for Jamaicans in the UK, who speak up for Jamaicans in Canada, in USA, around the world. But it's more than that. It's about who speak up for Jamaicans, period. Right? Is it the High Commission? Is the High Commission the voice for the people? Or is the High Commission the voice of the government? The diaspora members and those who are part of that structure, are they there to speak up for Jamaicans in the UK, in the diaspora? Or are they there to be a voice for the government and to relate to the government of Jamaica within the structure? And as well, with what is happening in Jamaica, who speak up for Jamaicans in the diaspora, like will relay their concerns? Or is it really something of a nature whereby the advent of social media, everyone is somewhat have to get a way how they can do it? So therefore, you got all the different platform which has been created, which is there to speak up on issues affecting Jamaica and Jamaicans overseas. I today was even saw a good friend of mine from a reputable travel agency, and I was saying to the person, "Hang on a second, why is it so expensive even to go to Jamaica? If you have a short and a quick thing, a bereavement or so, and it's a quick way to reach Jamaica, and it's £1,000. Why?" And the person said, "Speak to your government. Your government or your people need to deal with this because there's lack of competition in Jamaica, especially. British Airways go one place, Virgin go one place. Who speak up for Jamaicans in the UK?" We go further. Even persons with their immigrational issues, persons who are paying even UK taxes, persons who, are part of the system and yet they have to pay a surcharge. Who speak up on those persons' behalf? Are it lawyers? Well, they say yes, lawyers, but lawyers are there just to, most of the time, they want to rip you off. They want feel like they are being scammed. They are being chopped in a certain extent. And you go further. Persons who have been even in the country for over 20 years or so. And as a result of that, what they've gotten their stay, limited leave, these massive fees, surcharges, and everything that they have to. Who speak up for Jamaicans? Who speak up on these issues? That is something which is crucial, and I believe need to be addressed. Now, it could be a situation whereby there's no one. It could be a situation whereby all the different persons are just they're talking. Everybody's trying to catch on what they can catch on. You know, and as I said, that even with the whole bit which is happening in Jamaica regarding the SSL, the Integrity Commission, you know, who speak up for those things? I know for the UK, I mean, people are speaking up, but yet they're not even getting any answers, any solutions. Nurses striking, teachers striking, RMT striking. Everybody's striking, trying to make a big difference. But somehow something is not getting through. And then when it comes on to the government, it could be deemed that the government of the day, and I'm talking about Jamaica, they are like in there for a season. And then one question, as I say, how many of the people in Jamaica actually vote for the government? How many persons are legible? How many people are registered to vote? And is it the majority of persons? Or people sometimes maybe do not want to talk because they fear talking, because if they talk, they'll be chopped or they will be remembered. Because one of the things is that the government somewhat is deemed to be the biggest employer. Many people in the civil service, I must say. So many people, yeah. Mark, how are you doing? I think I saw you there. Mark? I think I only can see your yeah. Okay. So tonight I'm hoping to get Mark Cameron. Mark from the USA. Open to come on tonight. Mark is a businessman, artist, and activist. You must have seen him. Mark always speak up on different issues. And I hope to get David Chen. I'm a taster for culture, voicing for Jamaica, an ambassador for peace. He may not. I'm just talking about these different things. Definitely, we hopefully get O'Neill Cross from the USA. May get Lester also from Netherlands, and other persons, and anyone else who want to come in and actually to share their views or their concerns. Because the one of the reasons why this topic was decided from last week was based on some of the responses and based on some of the comments and based on what people are saying. It was like, who speak up or who can speak up? Or, many years ago, I created Facilitators for Better Jamaica. And Facilitators for Better Jamaica was, here we go. Mark, are you there?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Oh, you're there. Okay, I couldn't see you before. You're in the darkness. What's up?
Good. I'm actually in my studio in the trees, actually. It's one of my art studio.
Really? Well, I think we should discuss art first. I mean, that's the most important thing. Let's talk about art. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mark Cameron, businessman, artist, chef, king of kings, lord of all, everything, politician, mash up everywhere to make a difference, of course. To make a difference. Well, Mark, how are you, man? Always the USA there now.
Well, I just got back here to the USA from Jamaica about 4 days ago. And readjusting. I was in Jamaica for quite a bit, trying to organize a new movement.
Yes.
To be talked about later on, not right now.
Yeah.
But there are many voices out of the diaspora. But these are coming mostly from bloggers.
Yes.
You're not hearing from the regular person because of the connection mostly with government. A lot of people are afraid to talk because the government is Jamaica's biggest employer, and that's one of our biggest problems. You have to understand that for a country that's not producing as much as it should,
Yes.
We do have a top-heavy government, and which is why we have to keep borrowing money or liquidating state assets to survive. We're not a viable economy at this point. You know, I know there's been a lot of spin generated about how well the economy is going, but it's really not going that well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the structure that's in place right now does not allow for transparency and due process as it relates to criminal activity against our citizens.
Yes.
It seems that there's two types of justice systems in Jamaica. If you have money and you're connected, you walk. And if you steal, a patty and cocoa bread out of hunger, you go to jail. So there's still the legacy of colonialism affecting our country today, and it's manifested itself in the worst ways possible. So I can only do what I can, and in promoting, better behavior among our people.
Yes.
To try to encourage them that and to enlighten them that if Jamaica doesn't work for everyone, it's not going to work for you in the minority. You be living in a with burglar bars and suspicion all the time, because it's not. I believe in collective rising. People have to rise together.
All right.
And that's.
Let's look at this. Okay, the topic which I frame and for persons to put it in a perspective here is who speak up for Jamaicans in the diaspora. And when I coined that phrase there, or that sentence there, many people think about it's about Jamaicans in the diaspora and their issues in regards to government, in regards to immigration, in regards to different things within that country, either USA, UK, Canada. I'm using the bigger ones. But I'm also, as we spoke earlier, is looking at the bigger picture as to who speak up for Jamaicans, even period. Our people, because when I think about the government, even in Jamaica at the same time, I realize, as you just pointed out, that it's only the bloggists who are actually making noise. The average person sometimes keep quiet and talk within themselves, and they are somewhat indirectly is maybe complicit with what is happening, not directly, but they feel like they cannot speak up, as you rightly say, because the government is the biggest employer. And I know of persons who have been shafted by just because they speak up or because of their name or because of their affiliation with the whole political scenario. And therefore we want to sort of, we got to look at it in a way whereby at the end of the day and at the end of this program, with some sort of solution as to how one can move forward amidst the maze.
Well, the fact of the matter is that we do not have a viable opposition at the moment. Jamaica's being run by duopoly governance.
Yes.
It's GLP, PMP against the Jamaican people. The PMP is afraid to talk up with the GLP because GLP has secrets for the PMP, and vice versa. So we have to depend on the bloggers. I mean, we are, like I said, we are in the process of putting together a movement that will be a viable option and a voice for the first time representing Jamaicans and their interests, and not those of the political parties and their handlers, because they all have handlers.
Yes.
And or their handlers are not the Jamaican people, because it's evident by their behavior that our needs as Jamaicans are not being represented. And what is sad in SYLBOURNE is that we are all descendants of enslaved people.
Yes.
We've all been through the same trials and tribulations our ancestors have anyway. And you would expect that the people that we elect to act on our behalf, it's sad to say that they have not been doing so, you know? And that's a tragedy of the West Indies model, the Westminster model kind of governance we have that is not inclusive and is pretty much a private club with their private parties, and most Jamaicans are not invited. So we are on a trajectory where we're including all Jamaicans in the process of the kind of republic that we want, not the ones that they're gonna in name only, but a true republic. Where, for instance, if you go into a parish, most, as it is in Jamaica today, the political parties present their candidates to the constituents.
Yeah.
We believe that the constituents must provide their candidates. That is the only way that we're going to have transparency, full democracy, and people serving their constituents, and not the party. So that's down the line, but very, very soon we'll be putting forward this new movement that I'm talking about.
And what you're talking about is solutions, more definitely solutions for the people. And when you speak about even the solutions and what you're going to put forward, is it for Jamaicans in Jamaica or Jamaicans outside of Jamaica as well?
Well, we believe that every Jamaican is a Jamaican, wherever the person is. I mean, it doesn't matter where you reside, you're a Jamaican.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not copying anybody, but I'll give an example. I mean, in Israel, the people living in America, vote in Israel. They're Jews, and they vote in and vice versa. I believe we're the same people, and every Jamaican should be offered an opportunity to participate. And speaking of participation, right? Speaking of participation, excuse me.
Yeah.
The diaspora has contributed tremendously to the economics as it relates to Jamaica. We provide. I mean, Bartlett talks about Ed Bartlett, who's our Minister of Tourism.
Tourism, yes.
He always talks about how many visitors we have every year.
Yes.
But I travel quite a bit to Jamaica, and let me tell you something. Most of the flights I'm on is mostly Jamaicans. So I don't know where those visitors are coming from. I mean, we do have visitors, but let me say this: they all look like me. They are Jamaicans.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So we cannot be discounted. We are an integral part of Jamaica's development, just by the employment we provide to people, the amount of houses that are being built in and around Jamaica. This is mostly done by people from the diaspora, returning to Jamaica and building Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, Blogging God Vlog said something, but we already have that in the councillors of local government. But I can say to Blogging God Vlogs that there's no local government in Jamaica. There's no councillors in Jamaica very effective at this present moment.
No, as a matter of fact, one of the things that we are looking to do is a decentralized government.
Yeah.
Because we're looking for parish managers. And each parish will have a manager. And so there's accountability. If the neighbor drops in a pothole and loses him spring and him care, the politician living in that constituency will also lose his spring. So he's directly affected by the incompetence or the viability of his constituency.
You see, one of the things that I speak about, and when you talk about voices, and I have a video which I'll play sometime later when the Prime Minister came back from somewhere and was speaking about the Integrity Commission and what transpired, and we were speaking to were members of the party, He was speaking to members of his party, and you wonder if he should have been speaking to the people of the nation. But nevertheless, still, the big question is how how do people get their voices heard and to be acted upon, not just through the present political structure? Because even if a party is supposed to start in Jamaica, you need 500 signatures, and those 500 persons must be registered and must be registered. And most of the persons who are registered, they're either PNP or JLP. And then at the same time, in the recent elections, there was the amount of people who actually went out to vote is a minute percentage of the population of Jamaica. And yet at the same time, the government has a majority based on the members of parliament. And then you also have to question yourself, in a country which is 14 parishes, why do you have 63 MPs?
I can answer that.
I know that. I'm just throwing that one out there because I'm looking at to see how can voices not be mired with and punctuated and prolificated or whatever through political jargons, but how can people actually can reach out to their respective parliamentarians or whatever like that to have a fundamental voice?
Well, the only way to achieve that is to decentralize government. When people complain today about any problems in Jamaica, they complain about the party.
Yes.
So if we have an issue in Mandeville, we're going to complain about the party that's in power and not the person who is running the constituency, because there's no accountability. It's very difficult. You mentioned earlier about getting the benefit of votes. If we're starting a movement, and now can you imagine this? We have to go to a person, a stranger, and said, "Hey, I'm starting a new political movement. I need your home number. I need your address, your telephone number, and your voter's registration." This person doesn't know you from day one. So it shows you the difficulty in getting a signature to be able to register to be a political party.
Yes.
Now, I would imagine that the government would want everyone involved in the voting process, and to make it easier. I went to re-register my name to get registered as a voter. I actually renewed my registration, and I did this almost 2 months ago, and I haven't gotten a reply on my number or my registration card, and I'm a person that was already registered in the system.
Yes.
So it seems as if they're trying to circumvent the democratic process by making it more difficult. So what you're having now is the party loyalists and the faithful that are already registered by the political powers, who take them in some cases drive them to the registration place to get registered. So it's an uphill battle, but thankfully a lot of PMP and GLP persons are signing up for a new way. So that makes us very hopeful that in the next election there will be change that we've been longing for, change that has been put forward, we've been advocating for from my mother and father has been around, and they're both passed on regrettably. So I think it's a Jamaican initiative. It'll be a Jamaican constitution. It'll be a Jamaican republic, and inclusiveness that you never had before.
Yeah,
we're not accustomed to the kind of inclusive system we're trying to put in place. Some people are actually quite surprised. You're like, what? we provide you with candidates. It seems like unreal that the constituency is bringing candidates to us to support against the two. So it's a revolutionary time and an exciting time for Jamaicans to embrace what's ahead. It's going to be very difficult because, as you know, a lot of people get their bread and butter from the political process.
Yes.
So it can be a bit dangerous as well, you know.
Yeah,
but we're trying to convince Jamaicans that in the long term, we need the very best people run our country. It doesn't matter if you are in a green camp, orange camp. That is all foolishness and needs to go away. We're one Jamaica, and we need the best people run our country. That's one of the reasons why we have the best runners in the world, because all Jamaicans have an opportunity to show their skills, and we will only select the best qualified. But
therefore there's a cloud of witness which can see, and it's obvious that is the fastest person, and nobody can pull a fast one.
Absolutely. You have development meets, you have girls and boys champs. I mean, Usain Bolt didn't just come out overnight. He had to go through boys champs, he had to go through Carifta games, all of those type of things. That's how we get our best people. But in the government process, it's the connected who may not be the most qualified that gets the position, which puts us on the world stage at a disadvantage.
Yes.
And that is what we're trying to circumvent. We're trying to put the best Jamaicans forward so we can get the best results.
All right, let me bring in I think O'Neill and Lester. Let me bring in Lester here. Lester, how are you?
Good night, gentlemen.
We'll leave a right back. Well, leave a right, friend. Where I say?
Good evening, sir.
Man, you look unhappy, man. What's going on, bro? Well,
no, I'm always happy, you know.
You're under pressure.
No, I live in a first world country, you know, and I enjoy the fruits of being a citizen of a first world country.
So, Mr. Lester, why don't you introduce your first world concept to Jamaica?
I'm not a political leader.
But you're a political blogger. But Bridget, you're a political blogger. You're a political blogger.
No, sir, I'm not. I'm a blogger that blogs for. I'm a blogger that choose to blog for the JLP when I see fit. I'm not paid by the Jamaica Labour Party, so I'm not a political blogger. I'm a blogger.
My friend, you can be a political blogger without being paid. There are many people who blog on behalf of different organizations because they have a vested interest. And the vested interest may not be necessarily monetary, but just to see that your country may be doing well, I think is a good reason to be a blogger. So I'm not castigating the man. I'm not. Yeah.
But I made a distinction that I'm a blogger that chooses to blog for the Jamaica Labour Party when I see it fit. So I blog about.
So you choose to blog when you see it fit, when it's advantageous to the movement, or when it's at your disadvantage. No. In other words, do you blog about the wrong things that JLP does?
I have a particular access that I can speak to persons in the party, cabinet ministers or MPs, as I see it fit regarding a particular issue. I don't have to come to the public with everything. There are things that I've disappointed in the party about that I have made my voice heard publicly. Like they have chosen candidates that I disagree with, and I've made that known in no uncertain terms publicly. There are other issues that I speak to cabinet ministers about. So it's not everything I'm going to throw out there onto the public space like that, because I have an advantageous voice and position that I can speak to persons in central government.
So your silence is fostered by your need for access to these people, because you need access to them. You are afraid to speak about things that may not be favorable to them.
But Mark, I just said I speak to party persons about issues I disagree with. They can't be silenced. Silence is not speaking at all.
I think what Lester is saying is that he chooses when to speak, and things when he's not happy about, he will not go publicly, but he will go to the person that he has access to within the political sphere. Am I correct there, Lester?
Yes, because I have that, like other bloggers may not have the access, the telephone numbers, the direct access to cabinet ministers or MPs, like I have and a few other bloggers have. So they exercise their democratic right to speak out publicly, right? And like my good friend Josie Wales, he's a Labour, right? And in Bun JLP day and night for the last 2 years. And him have that right, good friend. He has that right to do that. If he's disappointed in the way he sees the party is going or the government is going, he has that democratic right to voice his disapproval while still being a Jamaica Labour Party supporter. I chose a different route.
I think Anil. Oh yes, Anil. How are you doing?
I'm good. See,
Just realizing the link wasn't sent. Actually, I just realized. Anil, Mark, Lester, how are you guys doing? What are you guys drinking?
And I didn't bring any drink. I'm drinking water.
Well, actually,
I just had some money, some kung soup and some mannish water from Bowling Cross.
Well,
So
I must say, in the recent days, most of everything is water, and it seems to be everyone is on this healthy streak as much as possible, you know. And I think it's really good as men, you know. I find a lot at times, even with talking sip, there's lots of men on it, and there's a time when I used to be getting criticized because there's men, but now nobody criticizes anymore because I don't care. We just talk. You know, but listen, on a serious note, the topic which I coined today, as you guys know, was Jamaicans speaking up in the diaspora, and we sort of touched a bit on the government in Jamaica a bit, but I want to go back to the speaking for Jamaicans in the diaspora. Let's look at let's start, because people might be listening and looking. Let's look at the High Commission then. Does the High Commission speak for Jamaicans in the diaspora? The Jamaica High Commissions. Let's go for Mark.
I'm not sure they speak for Jamaicans. I think
speak up for Jamaicans.
I think they carry the message of for government. I don't think they speak for Jamaicans. From what I've seen, I mean, they could speak on the Jamaicans in the diaspora and the challenges that they may have in the diaspora. But in terms of, you have to understand that they typically speak with some concern, because they're representing the government.
Yes.
So it's not totally independent, you know. Even the diaspora, the new diaspora that they have here in America, it's affiliated with the government. It's not an organic diaspora organization. Yes. It's kind of government affiliated, you know. So I don't think you're getting a true perspective of what the diaspora wants from that organization.
Okay. O'Neill or Lester?
No, I would say similar sentiment, right? The consular services are the High Commission. They're there to support community, but also from the point of view of the government. They do engage the diaspora, but I don't think they speak on behalf of the diaspora. There are engagements there, and they try to tap into the diaspora. For example, you'll see, or you saw the Prime Minister coming into Washington, D.C., I think it was sometime last year, and there was an engagement with the community. So I don't think they speak on the diaspora on their behalf. Their organization whether you have the regions that try to engage. But I would say, in my experience, there is no one speaking in totality on behalf of the diaspora, because the diaspora is what they said 5-6 million people that make up the diaspora outside of the US. You look at Canada, the UK, and the US and other places. I don't think there's a universal voice that speak on behalf of the diaspora.
I have to agree with both gentlemen. But I thought that Mark would have gone a little further, right? So let me take it there. I think that the high commissions and the ambassadors are a waste of time, and the money that they are being allocated is a waste, because there's so much expertise and skill level in the diaspora. There's so many persons wanting to come home, so many persons wanting certain access to Jamaica, like opening a Jamaican bank account or having a Jamaican passport, or wanting information on things in Jamaica. How to get NHT contributions up to date, and there's a whole lot of things, right? And I see so many ministers or MPs or persons in Jamaica in the government have to be flying out for these meetings and these bilateral meetings and all of this, while they have an ambassador. I'm saying, what is the ambassador doing? Why are certain things that are we have a Jamaican ambassador to Belgium, right? I'm not sure if there's one in Holland where I am, but why is it that the infrastructure development, why is it that there are certain things in government, certain things in terms of like even tax procedures, how you pay taxes. There's so many things that can be transferred from here into Jamaica, into a system, not expensive, something that is readily available, that can work. And we don't have these guys who are in these countries taking these amenities, taking these things and saying, hey, let us do this. This is the know-how. This is the where it all. Let's look at energy. Right? Places like Holland, Denmark, Norway, these places, they have energy processing with garbage and stuff like that. That Jamaica have a whole heap of garbage team, and why aren't we taking some of these expertise and transferring it to Jamaica? What are these ambassadors being paid for? What are they doing? This is my personal disappointment with, and it's not just the JLP, I'm talking about the government of Jamaica over the decades.
Let's look at what just bringing up what person saying. That's their main diplomatic mission, to represent the Jamaican government interests, as someone said, first and foremost, then serve some of the interests of Jamaican nationals. Sharon Angel said, I agree. No one speaks for the general diaspora. It's a waste of time and money. Granting Jamaican nationals overseas the right to vote at the election is a key route for voices to represent it. Is that simple? Mark, and go on, Anil. You're going to say something.
I would sort of take it as different than we're listed. The ambassadors are there from a diplomatic perspective to engage the government of the United States. So even though I agree somewhat with what you said in terms of how do we engage in a different ways, there are organizations such as Jamaicans. There are other organizations that are out there that do that type of engagement. I know, for example, USAID does a lot of engagement in Jamaica and help with different programs that you just mentioned. Energy, there's a big, what they call energy sustainability that's going on in Jamaica that run throughout the USAID. So I want to separate, because there's a reason why you have these diplomatic engagement, and I don't think their job is to do the entirety of engagement with the diaspora. I think there are other organizations that are out there to be able to do that.
And just to pick up on that point there, what you say, Anil, rightly and truly, the government structures like the high commissions and the missions, they are there to deal with lots of the work which is being done on behalf of the government, and to be that feet on the ground or that footfall. And that is why they came up with the diaspora. That is where that came out of in 2004 with the late Delano Franklin. I was there, very integral in that part, 2004, 2006. And that's where the board came from, to somewhat be a voice that speak up on behalf of Jamaicans overseas. But then it has warped into, as Mark said, it has warped into another arm of the government to a certain extent, and therefore it is more like a talking shop on behalf of the right things and not things that will somewhat embarrass the government. Mark.
Well, let me touch on the High Commission that we spoke about a while ago. I mean, I have had many discussions with HC Aluna Samba, former ambassador to London.
Yes.
And in my engagement with her, I realized that she has been pushing. In other words, if you need to know about England and to do business in England, you go to the ambassador.
Yeah.
So I think there's a need for that type of engagement, because they facilitate commerce. They can facilitate commerce and introduction to different people that may want to do business in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Now, as it relates to the diaspora, I think business people are the ones that are going out of their way to make things happen. It's not government people, you know. We put too much reliance on government, and I think a lot of these junkets that these government people go on are really unnecessary. You know, it's just a waste of taxpayers' money. The bigger waste, though, I see, is really in that of the 63 MPs we talked about earlier. I think the MPs should be going out instead of going to Parliament every Wednesday. I mean, think about it. How silly this is. You have some Fortune 500 companies generating billions of dollars every year. They don't meet every Wednesday. You meet when there's a need to meet. Is there a crisis every Wednesday that you have to meet in Parliament? We're just following the Westminster model that has not changed. It has not caught up with the realities that we have in Jamaica today. So there needs to be a conversation about what kind of governance we want and what is the role and responsibility of our MPs and our ambassadors. That's a bigger question and a bigger conversation we need to have.
I listen to what Pinders says right there. Mark, SYLBOURNE, etc. You guys, why are you guys not analyzing the impact the right to vote for Jamaicans overseas would have? That is something maybe we can look at. But listen to what you say, Mark, and the High Commission has a role. The ambassadors, they have a role. The key question is Jamaicans overseas, what is the voice that they have? And how can they have a voice and how can they have a teeth? Is that in voting?
Well, right now we have an economic voice.
Okay.
We have an economic voice. I'm happy to tell you that the movement that we're fostering is inclusive. We believe all Jamaicans should participate in the process on how the country is being run. At what level is yet to be determined by the supporters, but that is something that we need to look into, because, like I said, you cannot separate our economic contribution from our right to self-determination. I mean, a lot of Jamaicans are moving back to Jamaica.
Yeah,
it's not just making money for the man or making money to send back to Jamaica. Most of these are feathering their nest, so to speak, to move back to Jamaica. So eventually, they will have a voice. They will have, I mean, under the present circumstances, they will have a voice. I mean, eventually, maybe not now because of how things are set up, but
Mark,
I think things are changing.
So Mark, I have a question. So when you say have a voice, what do you mean?
In terms of political representation, who represents the people? Number one, I think I think the voice will be credible because nobody can be bought out from the diaspora. No politician can pay off a person from a diaspora because they're getting nothing from Jamaica. So I think they would have a more objective voice, and I believe that they should be included.
Here's sort of my sort of bit, and I've had the chance to really think through it. If our conversation is, should we make it easier for someone traveling to the US who are Jamaican citizens, and we could broadly define what that means. Whether it's in the UK, they should be able to vote. Just like if I'm in Dubai and there's a US election, there's ways for me to get a ballot and vote and submit it. If we're talking about it, I think that makes sense to me.
Well, there's an absentee ballot in America.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Where persons who are not in the country at the time can actually vote by the absentee ballot.
Correct.
On a larger scale, though, I think we need to include the Caribbean people. We're the same people. As a matter of fact, if the Caribbean people unite, we would be a force. We'd be a force like no other, man.
Yeah.
Even on an Olympic level.
Yeah. So
we would have all the medals.
I think you could separate the two discussion, right? And in terms of, I agree because we do it for cricket, right? But when we look at political representation, there's something locality that is important in the discussion, right? And what I mean by that is, right, there are more Jamaicans outside of Jamaica. There are more Jamaicans who, if we decide that politicians in Jamaica should just focus on the 5 or 6 million people and not the 2.5 or 2.9 million people, there could be some governance issues there. But for me, we have to try to separate, because I think there has been this discussion over the years, which me personally, Neil, I am against the fact that if you have non-citizens, they should not.
Sorry, O'Neill, just to clarify, you're against overseas voting.
I'm against non-citizens.
Non-citizens,
right?
okay.
Right, non-citizens. You could have dual passport, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you want to do that. But to me, if you're participating in the process to select some representatives that are going to create policies that are going to impact my cousins, my aunt on the ground, when you're living somewhere else, to me, there's a balance there. Now, if you're a dual citizen and you could prove whatever, that's a different story. But I personally, and others could disagree, I don't believe that I'm a Jamaican, should vote in a Jamaican election, because there's nothing in Jamaica that is going to impact me here in the U.S. Right?
Well, I mean, I think we can all agree. I think we can all agree on that. I think you have to be a citizen of Jamaica to vote.
Yeah.
Period.
Period. Pick up on Leicester. Yeah. After you finish, Mark. Yeah.
So when I said Jamaican, I'm talking about a Jamaican that has interest in Jamaica. Not, you have to at least have property in Jamaica. That's going to be but I don't think if you're living elsewhere and you have if you're a citizen of another country with you can't show an interest in Jamaica, then I don't think you should vote. But that is something that the Jamaican people have to decide on. I mean, these are my opinions, and we express the will of the Jamaican people. So it's for the Jamaicans to decide what they want to do in terms of that.
Yeah. Let me pick up on Leicester, and I'll come back in on something.
To a point that Mark made earlier about persons running a Fortune 500 company that they don't meet every day. It is not really prudent to analyze a government, running of a government, on a company. A company is there for profit and for the benefit of the shareholders and stuff like that and the investors. Remember, the constitution is a breathing, living thing, and things in the country, in the environment, changes day by day. So, like in the Netherlands, and I think in other jurisdictions, the parliament meets every day. You know, so in the Netherlands, the parliament meets 5 days for the week, right? Jamaica only meets, I think, once or twice for the week, right? But MPs are policymakers. Many things that MPs get themselves into, they are not to do it. Them cross lines where the councillors are to be. The councillors are the one who's supposed to be on the ground, doing the heavy lifting, doing the work. And the line of demarcation is very clear what MPs can do physically on the ground and what the councillors should do. Our politics is so local that MPs blur the line and cross the line all the time. And that's why sometimes you see we have a little, people may say it's corruption or curry flavor and stuff like that, the nature of the policy. But if we focus on the policy making in an effective way, then the governance will be a lot better.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lester, and that's a valid point there, where the blurring of the lines between MPs and councillors, and why I said earlier, Lester, when you mentioned about councillors is working, I laugh and said they've been trying to have an election for a while now, and some of them must have been burnt out. They want to go home. Some of them want to even resign, isn't it? Because they've been trying to have this election since COVID period. Mark has been pushing for it, and we don't know when that's going to happen. But anyway, back to something which is a crust, and a few persons I'm picking up on it and saying about this overseas voting. Just like what Mark said and what a couple other persons said, I work in the legal field, and sometimes I have Australian lawyers and South African lawyers, and every time there's an election, all they do is go up to their embassy in the UK here and go and vote. Now, that is because they rightly because they have, rightly because they have their citizenship. My philosophy is this, and my thinking is this, and my beef is this. From 2004, the government of Jamaica has been talking about this in concert with the diaspora. 2004, 2006, 2008, 2012. Every diaspora conference it is spoke about. And all I'm saying, similar to what Anil is saying, I don't even have a particular view, and I don't think I should be voting in Jamaica, even though I've got my passport. But I believe that the facilities should be in place. The process should have been in place. That if my sister visit me in the UK for 2 weeks, and then Andrew Hollis decide to call an election, a snap election, she shouldn't have to dash back to Jamaica to vote if she want to take part in the political process. She should be able to go to the High Commission and to be able to vote. I'm using that as a very simple process there. Don't you think that should have been done by now?
It should have been. I think that's. Go ahead.
SYLBOURNE, you see, all right.
Yeah.
Me's a straight talker, straight shooter, right? You know why that's pushed for? If say when PJ Patterson was in power, our approach was similar, and they took an analysis of the diaspora, right, in particular regions, and them say that it may be more pro JLP, right, or it may be more pro PMP, depending on which government is in at the day, right? It wouldn't suit their interests to push for that vote, because it wouldn't benefit them back in government. That's a simple thing. Persons who are in government, especially how our politics is run, right? They call elections and they have certain things that will benefit them at a time where they will probably win. That's a simple truth. Or they would have done it already, because it's not a difficult thing to set up, you know.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'm just picking up what somebody just said there, and I'm just trying to pick up what this person guys need to say. For you're talking about who speak for Jamaicans, not political line of demarcation, but I believe they all overlap. They all overlap in a certain way, because when we talk about a voice, and we're talking about speaking up for Jamaicans' interests, as far as I'm concerned, is what is happening in Jamaica. and also what is happening here in your diaspora home, whether you care or not. That is Jamaicans' interest. Jamaican interest at the same time, who is in the diaspora, is about the money that they are put in the bank in Jamaica and trust that the money is safe. That is the voice of Jamaicans wanting to speak up for, and who is speaking up for them. So yeah, go on in, yeah.
So you're right. You sort of blur the line in sort of what we're discussing, right?
Yeah.
In terms of who's speaking and what they can say, and we're talking about voting because voting is one of the area, and I think Lester is right. I think it was, if I remember, Ilana Franklin that talked about that was not part of the Jamaican agenda to provide that resource, and the question becomes why, and Lester probably laid it out as to the political motivation beyond that. I don't know if you're visiting Washington D.C. and there is an election in Jamaica, can I walk into the counselor and say, hey, I want to vote? I don't know if that infrastructure is not in place. But I think it's something in, with technology and everything, we should be able to do it in a very secure manner, right? So to me, that should be easy to be able to do that. There's a lot of people that want to speak, about the things that are going on in Jamaica. And I think I'm with Mark that says, if you have interests in Jamaica, if you're paying taxes in Jamaica, right? If you have property, etc., right? You have a right to have some type of representation, right? But I think folks who are outside of Jamaica, and I'm going to say this that people would disagree with, there's a lot of people who are vultures who want to feed off of Jamaica, right? Without putting anything back into Jamaica, right? And we have to try to separate those folks. As I would say this is one of the reasons I'm not part of the diaspora, because oftentimes I see a lot
organization.
Yeah, is because I see a lot of people. Their first is, hey, I'm gonna go Jamaica, go get this. If we are, collectively, and I think Lester mentioned it, that we select very targeted areas that we could agree on. Education is one that needs a lot of support. You don't have to go through the government. The thing that always, irritates me a lot is that people that says, I want to do something for Jamaica, but for me to do it, I have to go to the
government, yeah.
Or I have to go to the government. Any one of us on this call could go call a principal, could go call an organization that you trust and do something in Jamaica. But I think oftentimes we just default that there's this body that I have to do it through. And it's the same thing. We had a gentleman on the call a couple of months ago, and I asked him a question. You have all these great ideas. Why don't you try to enact them? Why do you have to get elected as a member of parliament or as a prime minister to be able to go transform your community, right? And that is what we have to be able to do. Take a community, wherever you were born, help transform that community. And if you could do that, then you're able to take that playbook and go transform Jamaica, right? But I see a lot of people are talking about, I want to talk for Jamaica, but I could only do it through these venues.
Valid point, but O'Neil, the reality is of how tribal our politics is, right? I don't know much about how you grew up and what you experienced, right? But just let me give an example of something that happened. There's a primary school I used to attend in Vineyardtown, Clancarty Primary. A garbage truck rolled the back way over a little boy and killed him, right? Now the constituency is Central Kingston, right? I think it borders with Julian Roberts constituency, but also it is part Central Kingston. I was speaking to a particular MP who felt really heartbroken about this family that lost this little boy. It's a tragic accident, freak accident happened with the garbage truck. The sitting JLP MP in that constituency, right, and the MP who I was talking to, same party, and they are friends also, was afraid to visit the family in the constituency to give condolences, to give support, right? Because of a fear that the fellow MP, the colleague, would say, hey, you're encroach on my constituency, you're encroach on my constituents. So if you as an independent person, Mark, have some resources, and me and SYLBOURNE go down there and say you're the point man then. So me, you, Mark, and SYLBOURNE will give you the money. Say, you're the point man, go down there, do this in the community, right? You are seen now as an alien, as a threat to the political landscape. Whether PMP or GLP, you're seen as a threat because you're not going through one of the political representatives. So if you're going through the council caretaker, which is the opposition PMP or opposition GLP, if you're going through them, it's fine, right? But because the face of it would be a GLP or a PMP initiating these things. But you as an independent person who is under the umbrella, right, would be seen as a threat. I mean, like literally serious threat. Let me go further. I think it's Jamaica, one of these places in Lindsay Bagwag. I don't remember which one it's in wanted to do some type of work with Bagwag Gorge under the Manley era. And Manley told them, oh, give us the money, we'll do it. It has not been, I don't remember what the project was, but it has not been done. They want to do it tonight, it was needed, but because you're not going through the political directorate, you understand me? A lot of things can't get done.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting some concerns there as to the topic here, because we touched on the political bit there as to how one can have a voice regarding voting and affecting change in Jamaica by the overseas voting. That has not happened yet. That may not happen now. The key question which I put was, how does Jamaicans in the diaspora get their voices heard? Now that voice is in regards to things happening. Okay, let's use one example. Immigration. In the UK, a lot of factors are dealing with immigration, whereby people are feeling like they are done over by the UK system, but they're asking who can actually help them. Is it the High Commission? Whenever they don't want to go to lawyers because they feel like being ripped off, and so it's like a lobbying factor. It's like the need for a lobbying factor to put pressure. The Jews have done that very well. The Asians, I believe, have done that very well. But are Jamaicans very effective in putting pressure on the local jurisdiction that one is in? Not talking about Jamaica. Mark, in the States, how do you guys do that there? Jamaicans putting pressure on the system there to sort out immigration bit, and then on you.
Okay, let me speak on something that is similar. I'm actually resigning from the I was the vice president of the homeowners association for area. We lobby government by our collective efforts to get our voices heard. In other words, we are a body of people with the same concerns. And we were able to prevent the government from turning a park into a housing complex because of our activism. Now, many years ago, and this could be a model for everybody, as a matter of fact. Many years ago in Jamaica, before I moved back, I heard about this dust problem in Mandeville, where the caustic soda from the bauxite was covering the whole of Mile Gully. And when I went down, it was actually I could actually see the problem from my veranda.
Yes.
I called NEPA. Calls were not returned. I spoke to a sitting MP about the problem. He said I should go burn a tire and get some friends and make a whole bunch of noise, and we'll get some activity. So I was like, why the hell are you there? When me a burn tire and you in a parliament and you not do nothing? So what I did was I went on Mutty Perkins. I went on Beyond the Headlines, and my activism got the attention of Peter Bunting,
Yeah.
who was the opposition candidate at the time for the PMP. He got me, but before that, Al Jazeera came down to Jamaica.
Yes.
And interviewed me and another gentleman who from the cockpit, one of the cockpit fighters, I forget his name. And I went before Parliament and spoke on behalf of Mandeville, when most people from Mandeville didn't know I was speaking on their behalf. So to your point there, Lester, O'Neill, to your point, you can achieve things without government. But how it happens is that you have to embarrass them into compliance. When they saw the Al Jazeera report on YouTube, by the way, if you go to YouTube, you can see it. Just Google bauxite problems Jamaica, and you'll see me making a presentation there. It embarrassed him into compliance. So I went before Parliament on a Peter Bunting's agenda. No, he didn't have to do that. Peter Bunting did not have to have me in Parliament speaking on behalf of the people of Mandeville. He didn't have to do it. So if he hadn't done it, my voice would be in the wilderness with nothing being done. So in the long run, it takes government. It really takes government to make things happen, bro. Because if government didn't tell these guys from Windalco to put sprinklers on a mud lake, it would not have happened. So government is an integral part of how the trajectory of our country. So we can't dismiss government, which is why it's important.
You're
that we
right.
have a government by the people for the people.
You're
we
right.
Don't have today.
You're right in that in regards to Jamaica, as you make that point there, and even in the UK. If anything is to change in regards to immigrations or whatever like that, one has to actually tackle it from a legislative level with the government in the UK, with the Home Secretary. When persons I speak to sometimes complain about their immigration status and their surcharge and lots of money which they're paying, they feel like somehow they are left in the wilderness. In the UK as well, what we have is like people can go to their MPs, members of parliament, to somehow lobby them, to somehow get them to, as Lester said, in Jamaica on Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, they can go to their MPs. Here in the UK, people can go to their MPs as well. But what I'm talking about and what I find is lacking is that there's a lack of a collective, strong voice for Jamaicans in the diaspora to speak up on issues within their locality, within the UK. I don't know if USA or whatever. Like that is a crust of where I'm going from. O'Neill.
So there's, I think, and this is my experience, Jamaicans don't necessarily have activism, meaning communities will have issues with their infrastructure or road, and they collectively come together and say, hey, our voices need to be heard. Here in the US, you have lobbyists that pays billions of dollars to lobby Congress, etc. Jamaica, by nature, if you go, and Mark, I'm from Mandeville. You drive down Sanguinet to Spaldings, the roads are like riverbeds, and they've been there for years. Politicians have driven through. But Jamaicans as a whole, I think the last big sort of strike in Jamaica, gas strike back in the 90s, if I remember, it's not part of our culture, right? And it's something that we need to get better at doing in terms of holding our elected representatives. But to Lester's point, it's a pretty tribal nature, right? Each member of parliament will go in and do different things. But I would say this is my experience, right? The things that I have achieved and my family has achieved has nothing to do with the government. We have built schools and we didn't have to go to the government, right? Right now, I have a project that I've started with a school there. I didn't have to go to the government. So there are things that you could do, right? The thing that I would say that is lacking in the diaspora, it's around that collective lobbying of, governors. You don't have to do it at the federal level, because that is what the African diaspora does so well that we
Yes.
don't. They lobby the governors to go back to Africa, the mayors, and they're getting results, right? We don't do that, right? And I think that is a thing that we could put pressure. And I think, Mark, you probably said it. You know, I think we send $3-4 billion a year in remittance to Jamaica. So there's an economic voice that we could do, right? But I don't think we collectively do it together. And you know, if I'm in Washington D.C. and if Mark, you're in New York, we should be able to say, hey, let's get a group of people together. Let's showcase Jamaica to the new governors to say, hey, here's why you should open trade routes with Jamaica. Here's why you should do XYZ with Jamaica. I think if we could collectively do that, you could start changing. Because I would say, for example, you know, I don't need, you know, I could pressure the government if Mark and I get the governor of, you know, pick a state to go to Mandeville because we think there's something that is beneficial that she could say, hey, let's go. We would put pressure. And if we could do those things, I think you would see results.
Yeah. I like
that's a good point. That's a good point. I think go ahead.
No, I was saying, Anil, I like what you said, and I think that's a case on point that we can hold on to. And in regard to Pinders, when you talk about how do you guys suggest we get from inaction to action with the voice of the people in the diaspora? And Mark, I think you set out a blueprint there. I think we have spoke about it already. Not Mark, I mean Anil, regarding the African diaspora, whereby they are actually being very proactive in dealing with the governors. And you're talking from the United States perspective, because I believe that something will have to come out of it whereby there's a strong voice, you know, even if it is a wag, the tail wagging the dog of the people in the diaspora. I mean, I hear what Michelle say right here. Veronica Tate said something, no, not government, but people need to make things happen. And Michelle Clark said, it takes the people. The power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. But Mark, you also emphasized something that you're still going to need the government. And even Anil, for the places that you tap into to do some work, would one say that the government facilitating the process in a way, or I'd set the mechanism for it to happen?
Yeah, but you know, SYLBOURNE, you know, one of the things that we are not doing, is holding government accountable for the tasks that they've promised to take on. We should not be doing the things that we're talking about doing. We're doing it because of the ineffectiveness of government.
Yeah.
So what we are embarked on with Up Jamaica is to really, from a movement standpoint, galvanize all the people that want change in our country and put the best people forward to make those changes possible. Now, you and I have been talking for a while and in different mediums. There's so many bloggers in Jamaica trying to do the same thing. And the reason for that is because there's no real opposition or no real voice for the people. You have to understand something, right? Is that we have been neglected. Why am I on Facebook? Why am I on different radio shows talking about the problems in government when it's the opposition's responsibility to carry our concerns to the government? That is not happening because, like I said to you before at the start of this program, we're being run by duopoly governance. It's a JLP and the PMP against the Jamaican people. We must understand that that is what's going on. We also need to understand that it's only 45% of the Jamaicans that vote. So like you rightfully said, it's a tail wagging the dog. Now, Bernard spoke about earlier about focusing on the vote. I think if we collectively, if we put our voices together and take on one thing at a time, because there's so much, I mean, the problems in Jamaica seem almost insurmountable. I mean, there's so much issues that need to be taken care of, you know? If
Yeah.
we can focus on the diaspora voting and, you know, just keep on that trajectory, just keep hammering away, maybe we can all get some results. I believe, I mean, we should have a vote tonight. I believe that every Jamaican who's paying taxes, land or income taxes in Jamaica, should be able to vote. Can I get you know, a vote on this panel?
So what you're saying is that every Jamaican need to have a vote overseas, from overseas. Is that what you're saying?
Every Jamaican who has property and pays taxes in Jamaica should be able to vote wherever they are, because Jamaicans don't necessarily have work in Jamaica. Some work in Dubai, some work in England, some work in the Caribbean region. Why should they be discriminated against because opportunities to earn a living takes them elsewhere? That's unfair.
Or segregation.
That's unfair.
Yes.
A man who's doing putting sugar cane in Florida, or picking apples in Canada, they should be able to vote in Canada at the High Commission. Let's start with that, and let's start hammering that away.
But what would we say, Lester, then, that we need government to actually, how do we need to push government to facilitate that, isn't it?
Well, let's start here. Let's put the fork in the ground. Let's put the fork in the ground.
You know what's our problem? I hear O'Neill speak on the Africans, and even here the Africans here are so united, you know. And we have seen the Israelis, we've seen the Asians, you know, the Indians and stuff like that. Right now there's this renaissance in Canada with the Afghanistanis, the Pakistanis, the Uzbekistanis, the Kazakhstanis running the trucking industry, and you know they're a whole collective. The problem with Jamaica is that if it's 5 million Jamaicans overseas, we want 5 million different things, you know. When you speak to
we run the weed, Bridget.
It's as if they're it's as if they're univision, like they want like a collective of the same things, you know. So the difference with Jamaicans in the diaspora and other groups in the diaspora is that Jamaicans, when having children and stuff like that, our children are not raised on a Jamaican culture. So like in Britain, these children of Jamaican parentage are more British than Jamaican, right? You will find that the Chinese, even the grandchildren, are ethnically grown as Chinese. They can speak Mandarin or whatever local language there is, and the language of that country. You know, we are not like that. So like children who grew, like Silver, for example, your children, they have no real barefoot on the ground connection with Jamaica. They are British children.
Yeah, but they like the jerk pork and jerk chicken. I like the jerk chicken.
Yeah, but you know something. You know what's going on right now. What's going on right now is that, to your point, Lester, a lot of English people go back to Jamaica and build these mansions and die and leave it, and the kids who live in England don't come back to Jamaica.
Exactly.
No, we have done a poor job, and it could be because of our colonial experience. We don't identify with Jamaica as much as the transition. We have not educated our kids about Jamaica and where we're from. And I think it could be a legacy of slavery and colonialism. We want to be somebody else. Even Jamaicans, some Jamaicans try to be Americans. They try to be everything but Jamaica. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a Jamaican. Nothing wrong with carrying a Jamaican agenda. At least our forefathers were sustainable. They lived in a very sustainable environment. The Jamaica today is not sustainable. We are in this fast track to nowhere, which is why when things crash, they crash really bad, because we're so dependent on foreign exchange, on the foreign on the diaspora. We're so dependent. We're not doing for ourselves as we have been taught. I mean, I hate it. I mean, I gotta say this: if we had listened to some aspects of what Manley preached in the 70s, as related to being self-reliant, our country would be a better country today. You know. But
I want to add, Mark, that it's, you know, I think when we paint diaspora, I think we paint it with a very broad brush. And I'm going to say something that probably a lot of people will disagree with. There are some Jamaicans in whether the US, Canada, that are just surviving, right? They're not looking to do anything back in Jamaica, right? They're just surviving. They're living paycheck to paycheck, right? So we have to understand that those dynamics. So what I would say, the folks like on this call and others, right? Because everyone do their own, right? Some Jamaicans are here just to send the money back home. If they make $100, they send $80 home, right? So we have to put those things in context, right? But I do believe there's a segment of Jamaicans, whether they could provide intellectual capital, whether engagement, we could do that, right? Some of the things that we talk about doing here. But I think if that group can come together, right, it'll help not only the Jamaicans, but collective, right? But this is where I think Lester mentioned it. We have this culture that we so want to one-up each other, right? You know, I was giving a speech yesterday to around 300 new hires. That's just right. My first default always, I said, I am Jamaican to my core. Yes. Right? No matter what venue I'm in, right? I could be talking to 5,000. I'm Jamaican. If you hear me when I talk to my dad or whatever, are there sometime I'm in the office? Guess what? I'm talking my patois, right? So
I never know you speak patois.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Boy, you know, go on about your business, Lester.
No, man, that's a patois. I'm not real patois.
So I think one of the things that I see, and I keep saying it, we are so disjointed as a community. We can't collectively come together and say, hey, you know, let's go do this. I'll make my point again. When was the last time you see a mayor, governor for any major city, whether in the UK or here in the US, that have visited Jamaica? When was the last time, right? And I think if we're able to say, hey, let's get one person in Florida, one person in New York, one person in Virginia, or wherever, let's collectively to get together and say, you know what, we're going to try to help solve educational issues. And we're going to engage with the mayor's office here to figure out how we could do some collaboration. Let's go do that. The issue, we don't do that at all. That's the issue.
Well, I've seen Dennis Grant.
One last point. For us to solution and get to where we're making an impact, we have to collectively come together.
So therefore, on it, Mark, before you come in, one of the key things which I picked up here is, and even with the African example which you use, and what Lester came around and said a while ago, is that there clearly is a need for coming together, but the coming together may be a struggle based on the ideology of persons not feeling a part of Jamaica. Even though Sharon a while ago said that her daughter is very much Jamaican and do most of Jamaican things, but I believe that we need to maybe somehow pull together some sort of lobbying factor, O'Neill. We've got to do that. We can't just have this show without any solution and put some sort of pressure, because it is very clear that the Diaspora organization is not effective and is not working. It is very clear. And it is very clear that the High Commission is there for the role that it is there for, but not being an effective voice. Because something else which somebody mentioned a while ago, some time ago to me, her family passed away, and $1,000 for
Can't
her to
hear.
travel to Jamaica not quickly. You can't hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can
we're
you hear me?
hearing you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
$1,000 for her to travel to Jamaica to bury her family. $1,000. And then today I saw a travel agent, a friend of mine, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Silburn, you guys need to speak to your government. Your government need to do something about it because there's no competition with Virgin and British Airways. So one is going to Kingston and one is going to one is going to Kingston, one is going to Montego Bay. So therefore they control the whole thing. So who who speak up? See, these are the issues that lots of people are talking about, but nobody actually is taking it up. Years ago, through Facilitators for Better Jamaica, which is the organization which I created with a couple other guys, we did a massive lobbying factor, getting lots of petitions. And we met with the directors of British Airways, and they said they weren't making enough money at the same time. But one was going to Kingston and one was going to Montego Bay. And then the pressure which we started dwindled off because we're trying to even factor some key routes through Europe that people can use and to boycott Virgin and BA. But after a while, people can't bother. They can't bother. Let's go to Virgin and BA. So it never was sustaining.
Well, you know something, Silburn?
Yeah.
Um, behind me is a painting that just started with Micah Mandy and Siaga
Yeah.
with,
oh
with
boy,
Bob Marley.
you're giving Mark, you're giving Lester a headache.
No need to get a headache. But what may I say, right? No.
I love that thing.
This has been going on for a long time,
My Jamaica concert.
right? This is my interpretation. But what I'm saying to you is that we have been at it for a long time, you know.
Yeah.
Some Jamaicans try to kill Bob Marley. Can you believe that?
Mm.
Can you believe that somebody was recruited to kill Bob Marley, one of our icons?
Mm.
So we have been the colonial experience of divisiveness has been very successful in Jamaica because we're still a divided country. Although most Jamaicans, like you already know, do not participate in the political process because they believe that their vote will never make a difference. And that is what we're trying to change. We're trying to change that.
Well, we saw with Lisa Hanna up there in Southeast Centon, whereby every count, every vote make a difference. Even in the UK here, in one constituency that I knew, I think the MP won by 23 votes. You know,
I think Lisa won by about 5 or 6 votes, right?
No,
Less
32
than
votes.
32 votes.
32, okay.
Yeah. And if Ryan Sims had run and that was kicked out of the party, she would have lost that seat. But Mark, earlier you said it's 45% voter turnout. No, it's 38% voter turnout. Is a crying shame.
Yeah, let's go back because my viewers are actually trying to keep me on check. They're keeping me on check, and I want to make sure we keep on check. Silburn, please invite your guests to get back on how we can change the airfare availability and costs from Europe to Jamaica, for example. Anybody have any ideas on that regarding the airfares?
So the interesting thing you talked about that. I was in Jamaica recently, and there's a couple of questions I asked a couple of policymakers there. But I'm gonna split the bit in two. When Air Jamaica was up for sale, maybe I don't know, 20 years ago, right? One of the things, and I think Silburn, you and I probably have talked, or someone else said, this is an opportunity for the diaspora to come together because this was a vital transportation system for Jamaicans flying back from Chicago, LA, the UK, New York, Miami, right, BC, right? There were these routes. Somehow, it went where it went. So to the point that the person is talking about airfare, it's a supply and demand issue, right? Is that I went to Jamaica, when was it? maybe 3 weeks ago. I paid $1,500 for my ticket. Right? I have to fly.
1,500.
1,500. I have to fly from DC to Miami, and stuff. Right? It's because guess what? I don't have a direct route. Now, if we want to solve that, Caribbean Airlines, they made some when they bought Air Jamaica route, they said, here are the things that we're going to do. They have not done that. I will tell you something that was interesting for me. I got to Jamaica at 10:30 on a Thursday. It's the first time I ever flew into Kingston, and there was nobody in the airport. Myself and the plane just came in. That was 10:30 in the morning. My plane was the first plane. When I got off the plane and walked out, it took me 5 minutes from the plane to get through immigration, and there was not a soul in baggage claim. It was, so it goes back to the point around, if we want to lobby, someone needs to go back to Caribbean Airlines. They have to go to American Airlines, British Airways, and said, look, you own all these routes, right? And this is the lobbying factor you're talking about, SYLBOURNE. You own all these routes. You can't just fly one plane a day or one plane a week. If not, here's an opportunity for the diaspora to say, hey, let's re-energize Air Jamaica, but we have to go back to the government and say, hey, we want you to reclaim those routes, right? And if we are able to do that, then someone flying from the UK or flying from the US could get a $300-400 flight, because there's no reason why I'm flying a 3-hour flight and I'm paying $1,500 for that flight.
Okay, thanks for that. A couple points right there. Let's say if I mute you because I'm hearing a little feedback there, that's why I'm muted. Just let me know when you want to speak. The key thing there, supply and demand. What the lady said to me tonight was competition. She said lack of competition was what was driving the prices up. Mark, you touched something earlier, or Lester, CARICOM. You know, if CARICOM was very effective, and this Caribbean airline, why can't CARICOM pull together and have this airline system or something like that? That is where we're falling short. We're falling short because you can't blame British Airways, you can't blame Virgin Airline. As a matter of fact, you can't even blame British Gas or all these guys, because all of them want to make more money, want to make more profit. British Gas got 3 billion triple since the war. You understand? Sorry, that's another thing I'm going into. You know,
it comes back again, corruption.
Yes.
Unfortunately. If you know about the FinSac issue, when these loans were when people were getting loans at 20% interest rates, and then overnight it went up to 70% and 80%, and most Jamaicans defaulted because of that. Instead of the government should have gone to the people and tried to make some kind of concession. Instead, they went to a person overseas and sold the debt at pennies less than what the Jamaicans were willing to buy those loans back from the government.
Wow.
The Jamaican government also gave Butch Stewart, Air Jamaica, to be his own little airline to shuttle people back and forth to his destinations at a fraction of the cost.
Yes.
So if we had not done that, and we had a fair process of including Jamaicans, we'd have had Jamaicans actually, bailing out our own airline and making it work for us. But the system that allows these things to happen is a fraud. And the sooner we change the system, and the sooner we have a united Jamaica, and forget the GLP, PMP foolishness, I think Jamaica will be back on track.
Let's bring it. O'Neill, I mean, Lester, you can answer that, but bringing back the CARICOM factor there, answer that question there.
Yeah, man. the simple fact is CARICOM is not united.
Yeah.
Right? Unlike the European Union, where the European Union they meet and they have particular vision in place and stuff like that, right? We don't even have free trade as it should be, or free travel as it should be, through CARICOM. I mean, we'll pass with the CARICOM passport and we can go to these CARICOM states, yes. But remember, these countries don't have to let us in, because them still hold the right to refuse us, and we have seen that with Barbados, Antigua, Trinidad, in the past, where they refuse Jamaica nationals, and I think we do it too. They do it more to us than what we do to them.
Yeah.
CARICOM need restructuring, right? We even look at the support for Haiti. There's not a CARICOM support for Haiti as a Caribbean country and stuff like that, and we treat Haiti like a bad stepchild, But the CARICOM have to have I don't think a lot of people in Jamaica or the region understand what CARICOM is. If I ask them how many states are in CARICOM, they can't tell you, because not every Caribbean island is in CARICOM. So we don't understand what CARICOM should operate like. Now you have countries with a strong manufacturing sector like Trinidad, right? That bullies the market, especially in terms of manufacturing and flooding other markets with their goods. But I remember when we were to send Big Joe factory wanted to send some juice to Trinidad, right? The loopholes that they have to jump through just to get the Trinidad have to came here, they have to inspect the factory, they have to do all that stuff. When their goods are coming here, they don't go through the same loopholes and red tape that we have to go through when we are putting our goods in their markets. So it's not like in Europe where you have Polish things here, you have German things here, you have Netherlands things in Germany and stuff like that. So it's more a free trade. It's more so. And CARICOM is very political also. It's very, very political. So people are not trusting of the persons who are running CARICOM. We are not trusting even of the court, the Caribbean final court of appeal. Court of appeal.
Yeah.
Well, something left up.
Last point.
Yeah.
We have to remember that airplane industry is one of the most violent and expensive industry to run, right? I understand what Mark said, but you see, Mark said something earlier. A lot of Jamaicans are living day to day, paycheck by paycheck. Them can't afford to come to if you look on the amount of people that travel, it's usually the same pool of people that travel year by year come to Jamaica, or every 2 years. The mass of Jamaicans living overseas on a whole don't visit Jamaica very often because they can't afford a vacation or to come back to Jamaica based on the expenses where they live, and when it comes to Jamaica, what they have to spend. So and that's why in Jamaica went down because of mismanagement and because we were getting the seats were getting business, and it had to crash. It was top heavy also, but yeah.
Lester, you talked about bringing the products to Trinidad, how difficult it is versus Jamaica. Have you thought about how dysfunctional our process might be that would make any other countries suspicious of our process? I mean, we have to have a standard way, a standardized way of manufacturing. So in other words, if we manufacture, just in a very simple way, if we manufacture and we process food at 190 degrees, it has to be 190 degrees in Trinidad as well. We have to have the same process that allows a level of equality. So that when you cross borders, the standards are the same. Nothing changes. For instance, when I used to get peppers when I used to manufacture my hot sauce in California, I used to get my peppers from Jamaica. And pesticides that are for sale, we have pesticides in America that can only be sold for export. They cannot be sold in America because the American standards are different than the Jamaican and other countries that they export. We're talking about pesticides. that are deemed dangerous for Americans. But they allow the sale of them to be to other countries to spray on their vegetables and so on. So we have to have a standard way. And I mean, I applaud, I guess me, I'm not against Trinidad for doing that. I applaud any country that goes through their own process of making sure that what we ingest in their country is good and is not harmful to them.
Yeah.
We, in Jamaica, we are not as stringent as these guys. I mean, we allow Windalco to put poison in our real cobra.
Yeah.
And they get away with it from time and time again. So, like I said to you before, right? Until we focus on integrity and accountability and proper governance, all the ills that we're affected by today will continue, my brother.
Yeah.
It's not going to change.
All right. Thanks for that. I'm going to wrap up on this point here now and just close off this session now.
I want to make one.
Yeah, go ahead, O'Neill.
Yeah, I'm an optimist. I think, Jamaica, Caribbean, we're going to get there somehow. I think the issue of CARICOM has been leadership. And actually, Lester, there was a CARICOM meeting, I think last week, where Haiti was discussed, where I think the Jamaican government is pushing the US government to do something. The Canadian government are doing something. So I hope something gets done, because it's a tragedy what's going on in Haiti. But CARICOM has always been an issue in O'Neill's mind around leadership. There's been a lack of leadership. I think PJ Patterson tried. I think Siaga tried. I think Andrew's trying to bring folks together. But I think it's all around incentives, right? You saw, Andrew was in, I think in Nassau, Bahamas last week, whatever. Yeah. And he's been trying to push unification to figure out, how do we do something? Because when he put out a bid maybe 3-4 weeks ago about let's bring, he was willing to put Jamaican soldiers in Haiti. There was no other Caribbean countries that I know of that says, let me join in this process. So to me, the leadership issue, and then goes off on the airfare piece, is that we have to figure out, and this go back to the lobbying aspect of it, right? How do we lobby the government to say, who owns these routes? And if you're not using these routes, you need to give them up. Because if I recall, right, the Caribbean Airlines, they promised a lot of things. They promised that they're gonna employ so much Jamaican. They've already fired all the Jamaicans, right? So there are certain things that we need to go back to, and unfortunately, it goes back to what Mark says, is around governance. Yeah. Right. There's lack of governance, not just CARICOM, but at the Jamaica level. And if we can help fix that, I hope we can. But Mark said something which I do agree with it. You need a strong opposition, and we unfortunately don't have that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Ani. One of the key things I recall why there could be some problem with even CARICOM. CARICOM was shaky before, and it became even shakier when the Prime Minister, when they nominated Kamina Johnson to be the Commonwealth Secretariat. And I think they're trying to repair that at the same time. There's a mistrust there. And I do recall when with the airfare bit, the air thing, when they sold off the slots or rent off the slots for Air Jamaica, I believe it was sold or rented off or something like that. And the figure, which was very small. And I believe, O'Neill, as you rightly say, that needs to be somewhat revisited. There need to be some pressure. There need to be some serious pressure on the government, Ed Bartlett or whatever. I was trying to call him recently and Delano Seabright to talk about this whole thing regarding even the all-inclusive. The all-inclusive somehow with the airlines have some sort of deal, and I was trying to get some information from one of the directors from the hotel in Ochuris there. What's in hotel name in Ochuris? I can't believe so. I forget the hotel in Ochuris name.
There's a hotel in Ochuris, by the way.
Yes, there's a hotel in Ochuris, Anil, please.
Jamaica Grand.
No, no, not Jamaica Grand now. It has another name.
Moon Palace, that is now
Moon
in
Palace, Moon Palace, Moon Palace, Moon
in a
Palace.
place called St. James. There's
Yeah,
nothing
Moon
more.
Palace, and so therefore, it is very clear that we've got to put some pressure on this aspect of CARICOM because, according to the lady, what the lady said, you need to speak to your government. You need to get your government to somewhat get involved with this. Unless so we have to try to see if we can do something to find out what is really happening regarding these high playing field because they said there's lack of competition. That is one thing. And then the next bit also regarding overseas voting, it is stalled. This thing has been stalled for a long time, and somehow it's like nobody's pushing them because, as Mark said and what O'Neill said, the opposition is not effective. I don't know if Mark is going to hear this. Mark,
No, the opposition doesn't want that either because, like I said to you before, the GLP and PNP they're one entity, so they're not going to oppose something that's going to hurt them. Right. If you have overseas voting, right, you probably have a third option. Would probably be a serious threat to the two because they can't be bought. I'm not even sure why it is illegal and people are not being locked up for vote buying. I don't know. I don't understand that because when you circumvent democracy, then it means it's a farce. It's not. It doesn't work. Democracy doesn't work. In the absence of truth, democracy cannot be realized.
Yes. Yes. Well,
SYLBOURNE, hold on there.
Sorry?
No. But me could be honest, right? Me could be real. Me could level. We really invite Jamaicans living overseas and visitors overseas to come see. Jamaica is a very dirty place, you know. Take the government sector outside where they provide garbage collection. Take that outside. Yeah. We as the citizens nasty of a country. We have to take a responsibility in also how we dispose with garbage, right?
I will speak to that.
In the fashion we dispose with garbage. That.
Lester, I'll speak to that because I've been very involved in that process. We have not provided adequate receptacles for our residents to put garbage. We have not done that. You also have to understand that a lot of Jamaicans are living along the gully side, which are not formalized areas for garbage collection or them having access to dispose of garbage. We need to make some very strong decisions as relates to those who dwell on the gully side.
Is that Gaza side or gully side?
If we don't, I did a live a few months ago down by downtown Kingston, where all the garbage comes out of Trenchtown, and it's called Trenchtown for a reason. The infrastructure that carries waste is still in place. So all the garbage goes into those gullies right out into the sea. That's why I never eat fish from down there anymore in the bridge because the amount of garbage and filth. When I was there doing the live, I had to actually go on the other end of where the wind was blowing because it was so bad. It's horrible. We in Jamaica and the government of Jamaica are focused so much on high-profile projects that make them look good, while the infrastructure has been ignored.
But Mark, I think you may not have the information that I have, right? When I said the government of Jamaica has not provided the receptacles, right? Orange Street, King Street, Church Street, all these streets, from the top to bottom, there were every 100 meters, there were these blue NSWMA garbage receptacles. You know who mashed them up? Jamaicans. Lick out the bottom of it. Broke them off. Right?
Why?
No, I don't know. I don't know. Right. Even the light poles and stuff. So I'm hold on. I'm saying when local government provide receptacles, right? Even the big skip them, right? The citizens burn garbage in them, right? The citizens do all kind of stuff to them, right? And these things has to be replaced.
Hold on. So whose fault is that? That's a law enforcement issue, brethren. That's a law enforcement issue. If people vandalize government property, it's law enforcement.
Just like how they deal, just like how they're dealing with taxi. Just like how they're dealing with taxi,
right? Yeah. I was at a location recently, and I'm not dismissing your point, because a lot of us are just nasty. I see them throwing stuff out of them cars, driving along the highway, throwing stuff out of the cars. But guess what? If a policeman see you throwing garbage out the window, you should be prosecuted for that. So it's a law enforcement issue. We are not enforcing the laws that we have. So what do you expect? The people act with impunity.
Yeah.
Well, it's a comprehensive. It's a major problem, brethren. It's not just, I give you one aspect of it, which is the receptacle issue. Yeah. But we have to look on Jamaica collectively and look on all the different areas that need attention. Yeah. Yeah. And we should be enforcing the small infractions, so that they understand that if you litter Jamaica, you are costing us money, because we don't have to spend more money on garbage collection that will come from fixing our roads and other needed infrastructure. You understand?
Right. Okay, Mark, I'm going to wrap you up now. O'Neill going to say something, and Mark, I'm going to ask you to read that poem which you shared with me earlier. I'll ask you to read that poem. And then we
hold on, before you go further, how can I get to it without cutting you off, Bridget? Because I'm trying to get to it without cutting you off.
Oh, it's on your phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to start that on. Yeah.
Hold on.
Hold on. How are we gonna do that on it?
Let me try something there. Hold on. Let me try.
Yeah, you go work on it. Work on it.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. I did it.
Yeah.
So I thought Mark was gonna take it a different way when Lester. I think it's an infrastructure issue. I think Mark just got frozen. So one of the things, I was somewhere in Jamaica and I didn't realize that there were no public sewer system. Yeah. A friend of mine is building a house, and I said, how are you building a house? He's like, no, I have a pit. And I'm like, where does the pit go? He's like, just there. And he said, no, there was no public sewer infrastructure. So that said, most people have these pits. And I think, as we talk about infrastructure, I think that's a project that Jamaica has to put in place, right? Their garbage disposal system. I think, Lester mentioned in the Netherlands, in Italy, they actually burn the garbage to create energy. So somehow we have to figure that out. But where I thought Mark was going to go is around the lack of sanitary infrastructure. It's not just in the gully system, it's also where the mansions are, because a lot of those big mansions that are being built, they don't have a public sewer system. That system goes into the ground. And when I ask people where that goes, it just goes into the ground, right? So I think that's where, again, we talk about solutions, where the diaspora can help, right? This is where the diaspora can help in terms of how you build a modern day infrastructure to help develop Jamaica, because they're taking it one step. Take the road infrastructure, because I do believe the government has done a really good job in providing road infrastructure. Once that is finished, hopefully, is the next big project.
Yeah. Okay. O'Neill, thanks, O'Neill.
Sorry. I want one other thing. Hey, Mark, that if you're selling that painting, get my contact from SYLBOURNE. I would buy that painting.
Mark.
Okay.
Mark, remember we need to do a show where you're going to showcase your paintings. Remember, we need to do a special show for you at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I found the poem. By the way. I found the poem. If you want to hear it.
Okay. Yeah, man, go for the poem. Yeah.
It's called The Deafening Silence. Jamaica is in a financial scandal, with daily reports on the black scapegoat pushing misinformation down our throats. No such on the head, whose story we are already read. Class structure, white and brown. a smile, a frown, no conjecture, preference no longer hidden but in plain sight. Such is the history of the black man's
Hold on. Hold on, Mark. Mark. Mark, we're losing it. We're losing it, Mark. We're losing it, Mark. We're losing it. We're losing it, Mark.
Sorry, you losing me?
We're losing it.
All right, some other time.
It came back. It just came back. It just came back.
Huh?
Oh! You got to stop
I
your.
came back, but I came back, but the poem is not back.
Okay. Well, I'll finish it off. I'll finish it off. Sorry, Anil. My apologies.
Okay,
Anil,
can you
sorry.
hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No. 1 second, Anil. You're gonna say something?
No, I was gonna say what Mark could do is record it and then send the file to you, and then you could play it.
Yeah. You're that Mark. Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, man. Next time.
Keep that one. Even though I have it here, but I don't want to read it in my voice. I want it to be articulated in your voice.
No, man, you read it, man. I like the way you read. You read it. Go ahead and read it, please.
Okay. The people of the world are now incompetent and passive. We ignore the horrors of an egotistical driven war with idle chatter, when in this dispensation, life after a third world war won't really matter. We're on the brink of a nuclear war with enough weapons to light up the earth like the end of a dying star, yet too busy ignoring loss of life while worrying about payments on a house, note, or expensive car. Humanity rolls merrily down a bad dream with evil hearts unclean, promoting their diabolical agenda on a live stream, praying for salvation as they destroy God's creation. That makes life out of many planets a reality and dismissing the trajectory of a possible human calamity. Man's footprint may be a short destructive stint, a far cry from a donkey's non-invasive hoofprint. We are brilliant to achieve and survive, but too selfish and too foolish to stay alive. I'm one man against the world, dwelling amongst most ignorance, too self-absorbed to realize the civilization is a muck, when more is spent on a war tank than a food truck. The devil now rules the world, a popular clique used by the defeated, allowing the worst in history repeated to absolve themselves of their purpose by blaming Satan and not us. When nuclear ash poison the atmosphere and turn us back to dust. Camo General. That's it, Mark.
Well, you read another poem. But that's cool still.
Is anything more on? You got too much. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark Cameron, and he has many poems, and he's gonna read it to me and send it to me. Mark, we don't know which poem that man. Anil?
No, it was good.
That's Capo. That's Capo.
Capo.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We need celebration.
Yes. Well. I want to thank you, Mark, for coming on, and O'Neill and Lester, and also to Pinder, Michelle Clark, and everyone, those on Facebook, on YouTube, and Instagram. And I think what came out of this, and I like how Pinder kept me on the road, when we thought of distracting. O'Neill and I, we're going to discuss about the airline bit and regarding the CARICOM bit. And Mark, we're going to see if we can put some pressure on that one there to look at airline and also the overseas voting. Somebody has got to challenge the government and say, listen, what's going on with that? Not saying we want it or we don't want it, but come to some sort of resolution. It's clear that there's a lack of a strong voice. So we're going to look at voices from an angle. And with Facilitators for Better Jamaica, the lobby group which I had formed, just have to step up on that as well to be a voice that speak up for Jamaicans in the diaspora as well and in the UK.
So we're working on a solution for the airlines. I'll give you SYLBOURNE. It's a
You might look at the charter too, charter. like traveling at the same time on a charter
Yeah,
might be something to look into.
We could collectively. I don't want to say too much, but there are things that we're trying to put in place to take that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that.
well, that's awesome. Well, guys, listen. Have a great evening. I think we did it at 12 o'clock on the dot. I think Lester to go. He's on the manners. His wife said, "Come home now." Mark, listen. We're gonna talk another time about Up Jamaica.
Yeah, man. Up. We're dealing with.
Up, not up. up Jamaica. And you don't want to say anything briefly about that, or you want next time?
Well, next time, but I mean, it's pretty much an it's an advocacy group. Looking on restructuring the Jamaican government to a non-partisan democracy, more of a republic, a true republic, with parish managers, 14 parish managers rather than 63. Voting for the prime minister or president separately, decentralized government, the constituency providing their candidates rather than we providing candidates to the constituency. Yeah. So it's a more inclusive way and more democratic way of electing our leaders.
Okay.
And they have to live in their constituency. They cannot be parachuted in. So I have a page called Jamaica Solutions Forum.
Yes.
And I'm about solutions. I don't have time to waste to the foolishness, man. If it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. If JP or PMP adopts our policy today, we'll walk away. We're not interested in trying to be government. But do something before something do you.
Yes.
You understand? Yeah. And that's what's been happening. Things are being done to us. Things have been done to us because our silence has emboldened them to do things to us.
Yes.
And that's the reality.
Yeah. All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much for that. And O'Neill will pick up one of your outfit, your artistic thing, and I'll have to work on getting one of them myself to put behind me when I'm doing my show. One of your painting as well when it comes to the UK.
I like the manly Tiago Bob Marley in the middle.
Oh, by the way, I just did a show at the IMF.
IMF.
I went to I presented a painting to one of the most senior execs at the IMF 3 months ago.
Yes.
And she was a Jamaican.
Okay.
And if you hear her story, brethren, if you hear her story of where she came from to get to the point of where she was in the IMF, as she's one of the most senior Black people in the IMF ever.
Yes.
And it's a Jamaican.
Get her so we can interview her, man. Yeah.
Mark, you know the current ambassador to Jamaica. You know he's Jamaican.
Yeah, man. I saw him in Jamaica recently.
Yeah, he's a former congressman out of New York, but he's Jamaican by birth.
Yeah, he mentioned that. I saw him at one of the events with our Consul General Oliver Mayer.
So that's a person to engage with, because his reason for taking that post was to be able to help Jamaica in whatever way he can. So if you could engage with him, I haven't heard his ideas, but apparently he wants to make a mark in Jamaica.
Yeah. And I think
he can make a mark with Mark. So we'll start to work with that.
Yeah. And I think we got to tap into persons who can influence change as well at the same time, no matter what. As I said, it's good to talk, but we got to bring the talk to a solution and to an outcome as well. All right.
Well, let me leave you with this. Hold on, man. This is important.
Yes.
I don't know how old O'Neill is. I don't know how old you are.
I'm 21.
Let me say this.
I'm 35.
21.
Okay. All right. Okay.
35.
Well, whatever it is, we are a miracle of birth. It takes about 100 million sperm to fertilize one egg, which means that for us to have gotten to that egg first, it means we're winners.
Yes.
We have a responsibility to the world and to our people. So our legacy is not our personal accolades bestowed on us by man. It's how you've left the people around you that matters. In 100 years or 200 years, many men don't know who we are. If
Yes.
you think about great men today, nobody talks about Ronald Reagan anymore or Margaret Thatcher. They've done their thing and they've gone. So ego means absolutely nothing. It's really using your gift of life to make a difference in the world. And I think that's what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
I don't want a personal accolades. I just want to leave a footprint of a better Jamaica for my Jamaican people. Period.
So what you're saying, Mark, we're all born winners. And if we start from
absolutely, brethren, we are
winners.
That's what I'm saying right now. Up, it's strictly up we are dealing with. We're not going backward.
So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we're all winners, male and female, you know, or whatever. They, he, she, we, who, Anyway, guys, peace out. Anil, take care of yourself. Mark,
man,
respect. Boom.
Right.
Take care of yourself.
All right. Cool.
Cheers, man. Thanks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. Those on Facebook, those on YouTube, and those on Instagram. And remember to like and share, and also you can share the show. Definitely, we had a good discussion. And while it's good to talk, it's good to have solutions. And we have identified 2 key ones which we're going to work on. And I made some notes on it while I was there listening. And definitely to look at the overseas voting bit, definitely look at the lobbying, and definitely to look at the hairlines to see what options we can do, because we got to support each other at the same time, and for the tail to wag the dog regarding the different persons in the High Commission, the diaspora movement, and to engage with that. So I want to thank you so much for joining. And tomorrow night I'll be on BBC. I think it was 7 o'clock, BBC 94.9 FM, to the review the news. That's on the radio, of course. I don't think I have the link. It's 94.9 FM. So I want to thank you so much for everyone who came in, and thank you very much for Pinder for keeping us on check. Much appreciated, and thank you so much for that. Peace out. Thank you.